Podcast is the single highest leverage thing that I've ever done, hands down. So I don't know how much I can speak on it right now, but over the next month and a half, I'll be having 5 C-suite executives from 5 different Fortune 500 companies, one of them being tomorrow. And this came out as a result of a PR team finding our podcast.
Hi, my name is Raulf. I'm an AI SEO expert. You're listening to the AI SEO Insider. I'm also the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing, an AI SEO agency. I am super excited to have with me today Liam Lawson of the AI Report. Your work with the AI Report has been incredibly impactful, building one of the leading communities and resources in the AI space. Liam, I was actually on your podcast, and after my interview went out to your network, I got a lot of very positive responses and comments and feedback. Hey, Liam, why don't you, to those who don't know you, who are you? Give us tiny little bit of background, who you are, and then what is the AI Report? Just in a nutshell, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, to start, my name is Liam Lawson. So if you watch F1, you might be getting confused right now thinking that I'm a professional F1 driver. That's definitely not my case. And that is not me. We just happen to share the same name. But I'm hoping to change that. Maybe we'll talk about that today, how we can use SEO and GEO and all of these practices to get me on the number one for the rankings. But no, I'm from Glasgow originally. I'm 26 years old. And the kind of two things that are quite important to me in life is traveling. So I've spent the last 3.5, 4 years traveling the world and working whilst I was doing it, and then building businesses too. So for us, the AI Report is something that we started around 2.5 years ago now. So it started with just a simple vision that ChatGPT just became a thing. People were starting to use it, and loads of these AI tools were popping out of the woodwork. So we just started reviewing them. Here's what they do, here's how you can use them, here's how they can improve your workflow. And then from there, we've grown that email list to over 400,000 subscribers currently. And at points, we've been over 500 to 600K, but we keep that list really clean. And from there, we've launched a podcast, we've launched enterprise training where we go into organizations in the US and train their staff. We've launched accreditations, we've launched training, and we do a lot of like keynote speeches and stuff like that as well. So everything's being off the back of doing a newsletter, which at this point, we are really focused on B2B news. And so we want to be the number one resource for B2B individuals. If they come in, they read our newsletter, they are an exec, they're a manager, anyone high up within a company, hopefully we're the most useful resource for them when it comes to AI.
Awesome. So today's podcast is not specifically about SEO and GEO and how to rank at the top in Google. I primarily want to talk about building a brand and community in the AI space. And Liam, obviously, you have done an incredible job. I am very impressed. So I'd love to dive deep into your journey and understand, how do you cut through the noise? How do you get people to sign up for your community? Quick question. Which one was your favorite country the last 2-3 years that you traveled the world before we dig into AI stuff here?
Such a hard question to answer. The things that always come to my mind, first of all, is Mexico and Vietnam. With both of those places, Mexico, I went like a lot along central Mexico and the south of Mexico, didn't really visit the coast that much. And Vietnam, I traveled all over in a motorbike. And the thing that I have found that was why I loved both of them is that both of them were so raw. is that they weren't really built for tourism, which would surprise you about Mexico because you hear about Americans going to Cabo and you think, okay, that's built for it. But if you're along Oaxaca and San Jose del Pacifico and San Cristobal, it's not built out for tourism at all. And it's the same in Vietnam. And it was just something that was like the culture was so incredibly strong there. The people were very Mexican in Mexico. The people were very Vietnamese in Vietnam. And these beautiful landscapes, amazing food, and just really, really friendly people with this incredibly strong culture. So yeah, those are the two that come to mind.
Awesome. I mean, we could have a podcast episode on just traveling. All right. So I'm on your LinkedIn right now under About. It says building the #1 AI newsletter for business leaders and running it whilst traveling the globe. Obviously, that's what you're doing. And then you say, we help professionals master AI in less than 5 minutes a day. Love to hear more about that when we get to that section. No hype, no fluff, just strategies, strategic use cases, tool walkthroughs, and real world examples. I'm not going to go on. Why don't we start with genesis and vision of the AI report? To those listening to the podcast, I'm going to put the links to the sites that we mentioned right below in the description field. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's right below. So Liam, what initially sparked the idea for the AI report? Was there a specific gap you saw in the market or a personal passion that drove its creation? When you started, what was your core vision or mission for the community that has grown tremendously? Has that vision evolved significantly as AI has matured or is maturing as we speak?
Yeah, at this point, I've got to give credit to my co-founders, so Arturo Ferreira and Martin Crowley. So those were actually the people that started the AI report, and I came on maybe about 3 weeks after the inception, after meeting Martin on Twitter. So that's how we even got started with it. And the initial founding vision at that point was literally just there's a lot happening in AI right now. There's a lot happening with newsletters right now. Let's make a newsletter about AI. So, like, to say that we had this grand strategic vision, has not been the case. It has not been the case. We just started because AI was really interesting and newsletters were really interesting. I have a background in writing, so we're like, okay, let's just jam these things together and see what we can make happen. Over time, like our idea of what we want the AI report to be has shifted every couple months almost. And it's only kind of within the last year that we've really found our feet with this. The thing about a newsletter, especially sending to a list of 100, 200, 300, 400,000, is that you get this kind of direct level of communication with your audience back and forth every single day. So every single day we get hundreds of replies to the email, we get loads of interaction with the polls. So we have a really kind of good grasp on like what people like, what they want. We can measure through clicks and opens, like what people are actually interested in terms of the content in the newsletter. So when we started not really knowing what we were doing, it was around a year ago now that we really found this vision of what we're doing now. So in terms of like who we are and how we describe ourselves is like we want to be the person that takes the majority of B2B individuals from like 0 to 1. So when we were looking at this kind of strategic landscape, something we tried a bunch was creating really, really advanced like tool use cases, really, really advanced videos on how to use certain tools, how to build agents, stuff like that. And if you look on YouTube right now, a lot of the content does center around that, around this kind of solopreneurship. But something that we found over time is that an even larger gap in the market there was managers and C-suite executives and founders and just employees in general were overwhelmed by all of this. And all they wanted was someone to hold their hand and take them from 0 to 1, which is just like, here's how prompting works, here's how models work, here's the players that you need to be aware of, and here's how to do basic things, here's how to summarize that email, create this PDF, edit a document with Gamma, use Copilot, and that's really where we are. and it's very lucky because AI is changing all the time. So it just means that we need to have our finger on the pulse enough to keep you from going 0 to 1.
Yeah, I think you definitely fill a need that's out there, especially with AI changing every day, right? So luckily in the SEO space, or GEO as a lot of people now call it, generative engine optimization, luckily, like, we were one of the first to market. I was one of the first that talked about how, AI is going to change global digital marketing. When did you get into, like, when did you see that point in time where when you knew this is what you had to do? Just take me back to that.
In terms of like what our brand positioning is and what
Yeah.
we do,
Yeah.
I think the biggest indicator for it was securing some enterprise clients. So we work with and have co-produced the specialty credential for SHRM. So I'm sure you've heard of SHRM, they're the largest human resources organization in the US. And we've been working with them to co-produce and create these modules of instructor-led training that we take HR leaders through. So in creating that, we then delivered the material. So imagine 3 hours a day for 4 days in a week. And it's instructor-led training. We take them through a course. And when we're kind of delivering this material in that classroom, so many of the questions really went back to basics. It was like, how do I use this prompt? What do I need to be aware of in terms of the regulations and the rules changing? Who are the players I need to be aware of? Like, all of the questions were really just going back to basics. And enough of that one-on-one interaction kind of just gave us a confidence that there's thousands of companies out there that, like, they don't want really advanced any end tutorials. All they want is just someone to hold their hand and be like, here's the basics you need to be aware of, and here's how to get to the next step. So it was really looking those people in the eye. That's what kind of changed the game for us.
Nice. How do you land that first client, enterprise client? That's a big deal. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's credit goes to Arturo Ferreira there. So Arturo, one of our co-founders, his entire time with the business has been spent building out the enterprise side of things. So I think Sherm came through the likes of Fisher Phillips. So Fisher Phillips is the largest employment firm in the US. And Arturo had been building out like an enterprise pipeline. He went and done a talk at Fisher Phillips annual conference, and from there got connected with Sherm, and then had just kind of been building that relationship with them.
Okay. Just quick side question. So it's really hard to build your email list. I've been doing this for a long time. I think we
Yeah.
have, less than 10,000 people. Do you do that as a service? Do you help companies build email lists?
No, it's something we've thought of though, because like the connections we now have in the space is we have certain people that really help us out with growth, certain people that help us out with newsletter content development. We obviously have the brand recognition we have, so we're like, we should
Yeah.
combine forces with a bunch of people and offer something full service that would do well. No, it's not something we currently offer
Okay.
because we've been trying to remain really concentrated on what we do, but if there's interest in it, I think we could make that happen.
Cool. Talk more about email subscribers. So beyond the podcast, which I think we'll talk more about, what were some of the foundational strategies you employed in the early days to attract your first 1,000 or 10,000 subscribers, listeners? Like, talk to me about content distribution, partnerships, unique value propositions, etc. And then, how did you identify and define your target audience early on? I think you already touched on that. And how important was that clarity in guiding your content and community efforts? Because people clearly like what you do. You got a massive list there.
Yeah, I might need you to remind me of part two of the question in a second, but I'll answer part one first. In
Yeah.
terms of like gaining that initial list, it was a really unique point in time where we were actually making money to grow our list at that point. So the point that we were building the list, you have you heard of Sparkloop before?
I'm not sure.
So it's like a co-subscriber thing. So when you sign up for one email, it like then gives you the option to sign up to 5 other emails. So it's like a co-signature almost, and it
Yeah.
pays you out per kind of other email it signs you up to. And at the point we were growing and like building that list, we just tuned it into such a degree that through Facebook ads and Twitter ads, we could drive them to our thing, have really high converting copy on our landing page, have that co-signature set up in the back end, and then have some monetization below that, that we were actually getting paid to grow our email list at that point. Does not work anymore. Because Sparklet doesn't pay out as well. Facebook ads and advertising is much harder than it used to be. So it's not a kind of methodology that works anymore. But at that point, that's kind of how we initially grew the email list, was through paid ads. Which, if I'm entirely candid with you, I wouldn't recommend, because it's much harder to sustain an email list that you've grown through paid advertisement channels, right? There's like something we didn't invest in early enough was all of the organic that we're now doing. We now invest heavily in organic on LinkedIn, same on TikTok, same on YouTube, stuff like that. And we just didn't invest early enough in it. Whereas if you see some of the other huge email lists out there and like email newsletters in the AI space, likes of like Rowan Chung with the Rundown, Superhuman with the Cans, the Neuron team, a lot of them have built out organic channels, and it made it much easier in the long term. So yeah, it's just a bit of an insight there into that. What was the second part of your question again? Remind me.
The how did you identify and define your target audience early on? And you briefly touched on that. And then how important was that clarity in guiding your content that you put out in community efforts? So identity, target audience, and clarity in guiding your content.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always knew that we wanted like a US based audience. Most of our founding team is, I'm based in Canada. Arturo and Martin are both based in the US, so we knew that we always wanted to do an enterprise side of things. So we were always going to focus on getting US subscribers. Um, so with that, that's always kind of what we focused on with our acquisition channels. And then kind of through when people subscribed to the email list, we were running a survey that kind of figured out what their demographics and their psychographics were. And just more and more over time, it kind of went against what we thought the narrative would be. We thought the narrative for people that read emails and want to learn about AI would be students and young people. And it was just never the case. Like through all this data acquisition, we found that the majority of our subscribers were between the ages of 40 and 55. They were usually at a manager level of, or above. So that just kind of naturally gave us this understanding that our audience is more mature and they already have a full-time job. They've already got a lot of things going for them. They have expendable income. They don't have a lot of free time. And in that free time, they're not going to launch an entirely new business, but they do want to learn a skill that's maybe going to make them more effective at work. And then that kind of understanding gave us the direction to develop our content and our strategy and our offerings as well, once we knew that.
Nice. Again, the website is theaireport.ai. I'm looking at the homepage right now. It's very clear, nice, clear messaging. The executive briefing for leaders driving AI transformation, and then big bold, big fonts. You don't need to be technical, just informed, and then opt in. Very simple. Email address, subscribe, right? Who helped you with the landing page or homepage design? And how many people do you have signing up on a daily or weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, so Mary Lou is our designer. We brought her in through a side project and she was just incredible. So she's based in France and we got her to design our new logo. We used to be called AI Tool Report rather than what we're called right now, the AI Reports. We'd done a rebrand at the start of the year and she just done an amazing job of the logo and everything like that as well. So we hired her full time and she now does all of our landing pages, everything in public. So I'm not giving out her information because she's amazing and I want to keep her.
Yeah. Right.
um, but yeah, she's incredible for that. So that's where the kind of landing page came from and where all the design came from. Um, the wording, you don't need to be technical, just informed, is just a product of me brainstorming with ChatGPT I have a space set up in ChatGPT and in Perplexity where it knows all of the information about my company, all of the direction, all of the members of staff, all of our SOPs, and it just helps me with any brainstorming because it knows where I want to go. So we just brainstormed on that messaging. Right now, with a growth we adjust month to month, year to year. Right now, we're just running at what we call maintenance. So we're currently setting to a list of just under 400,000 subscribers at the moment. So we'll add currently between 30 and 50,000 a month, depending on what the month is. But you'll also see churn with that as you realize if you have an email list that's above 100 and 150,000 subscribers, like you are charting a good amount of that list every single month of people that just aren't engaged. So with us, we have engagement metrics that people need to do to be able to stay on the list. And if they don't meet those requirements, we take them off the list. And that's to protect our IP and reputation with the likes of Google and our open rate as well. So yeah, charting a good amount of that as well, but just staying on maintenance, which is like 30,000 a month at the moment.
Wow. So after I was on your podcast, we had what I thought was a really interesting conversation. I mean, clearly you know what you're doing and you're able to interview people like me. So you're really putting out, I think, great content out to your community. And we actually, I think we landed 2 clients because of that interview. So it's definitely reaching the right people, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Hopefully I can return the favor.
Sounds like a plan. I like it.
Yeah. So what role has your podcast played in building your brand and community? And what advice would you give to others looking to do the same? Clearly, it's working, in my opinion.
Podcast is the single highest leverage thing that I've ever done, hands down. Through the podcasts, the guests that we've had on, the feedback that we've had, the clients that we've then signed as a result of them has been incredible.
Yeah.
So there's loads of people that have came through the podcast that we've interviewed that have then advertised on the newsletter, that have then referenced us to other people that have came and bought business off of us because they've seen us in a public eye and we know what we're talking about. The amount of opportunities that come from the podcast. So I don't know how much I can speak on it right now, but over the next month and a half, I'll be having 5 C-suite executives from 5 different Fortune 500 companies, one of them being tomorrow. And this came out as a result of a PR team finding our podcast, knowing we know what we talk about, and then putting us in contact with all of these different ones. I'm heading off to Dreamforce next month. So that's Salesforce's annual conference.
Yeah.
Result of the podcast as well, got invited by their team because of what we're doing in the podcast. We will be speaking to a bunch of executives and high up individuals at Dreamforce with a PR pass because of the podcast as well. So in terms of driving enterprise business, in terms of driving brand recognition, in terms of actually giving us like cash value, has been incredible. And we're only at 4,500 subscribers on YouTube, and then we have a couple thousand between Apple and Spotify. But what it's done already has been amazing. We're earmarking that as like our biggest kind of channel for growth moving forward. So we're planning on investing significantly in it.
Yeah, we're actually, so, you're on my podcast not too long ago. We didn't have a podcast, and, I finally made the time to actually have a podcast, interview people like you, and it's been amazing. We are landing clients because, we're able to talk to other experts and really share amazing, great information. That being said, how do you balance providing cutting edge technical AI insights with making the content accessible and engaging for a broad business audience? Well, what's your secret sauce there?
Like, I would say we used to do a lot of, I tried to focus on practicality. That's where my brain works, is I want to get practical insights as a result of the content that I do and that I create. So when we used to get people on, it used to always be about the how to do this, how to do that. and people would share their screen and here's how to create this tutorial and that tutorial and stuff like that. And to be honest, we've kind of shied away from that as we've kind of grown more into our brand of what we do now. We do just kind of focus on more broad strokes in terms of who our guests are. Is like, yes, we do want to see the kind of practical side of like how to do things, but when I have a guest on, I really want to hear their macro perspective on like what they're seeing change in the industry, how they're training their staff with AI, how their product fits within the market. Because I mean, I think anyone can create a how-to tutorial, and that's the majority of YouTube content out there around AI is like how to use this, how to create that. And we just, yeah, we used to focus on it, but not so much anymore. We want to take things from a more macro perspective and really get everything that's unique about the individual that we're interviewing, have that translate into the podcast as well. What's their history? What's their background? What's their experience? How are they talking to their staff internally, as well as the product itself?
Okay. Quick follow-up. What are the biggest challenges in maintaining a vibrant and loyal community in a fast-paced field like AI? How do you combat content fatigue or overwhelm? What would you get a few golden nuggets there?
How do we? I'd say we've just been consistent, so people know what to expect in terms of overwhelm. People know that we release Monday to Friday for the newsletter. People know that we release on Fridays and Thursdays for the podcast. So I think that's how we've combated overwhelm, is just there's consistency. And we've been doing this for 2.5 years with the podcast releasing on the same days and the newsletter releasing on the same days. So they've got a standard of expectation. And there's also other brands out there in the space of AI newsletters that have multiple kind of runoff newsletters for the likes of like, not to call out people, but TLDR obviously I think they have like 20 different options of different versions of the newsletter that you can subscribe to. We just have one. So I think people just know what to expect with us, and that helps with that. That they know they're not going to be spammed with different offerings, not too much direct response in terms of what we want to do with them. It's just, here's the news. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And here's the schedule. Here's how you can access it.
Awesome. Let's talk about money. How do you how do you approach monetization, let's say sponsorship, premium content, events, right? While maintaining authenticity and trust with your audience? Like, what lessons have you learned so far?
It's a really good question. And I appreciate you asking it. That balance is hard to find. So like the majority of our revenue comes from ads. So big companies, IBM, AWS, and Cogni placing ads on newsletter. That's where a majority of our revenue comes from. Now we're at a point where a lot of our enterprise contracts are starting to bear fruition. So we're being contracted out to a lot of companies I can't speak about yet to go and create custom training for them, custom modules, and develop and present that training in person as well. And so that's growing massively. There's not too much I can speak about on that. Balancing that authenticity is the hard part, because it's something that I've never wanted to do. Is you see a lot of kind of people out there presenting pro offerings or like communities and stuff like that, and they've got a pay gate behind them and they maybe do consulting. And it's not, I mean, we do have a pro offering. It's not something that we promo too hard. We are very clear that it's like a self-serve module thing. Go in, you have access to these modules, and then you'll do it. But we're very careful with the promises that we make with that. So that's how we're trying to balance authenticity, is just be very clear about what we're selling with our offering. And we don't really promo or try sell anything unless it's very relevant and timely. Like, just to give you an example, we used to create courses and accreditations for a direct-to-consumer audience. And at the time, AI was still changing, but not to the rate that it's changing right now. It's changing at light speed at this point. So when we created and sold those courses and accreditations, people got a lot of value out of them. We got a lot of good feedback. People enjoyed and thought what they paid for them was worth what it was. We've shied away from creating any courses and accreditations for the past year because we're just of the opinion that AI is changing so fast that anything we would create for you would be out of date by the time that we release it. So yeah, we're just trying to be more careful with that. We're thinking about creating the idea of like a B2B launchpad that maybe provides very basics on like Microsoft Copilot, some pro reports, some access and discount codes to our partners, stuff like that. But we want to be very careful about what we put out there into the world because our brand and our reputation, our IP is the most important thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, man, we're still at the very beginning of this whole AI craziness. We spoke about my trip to Africa. I was gone for 3 weeks. I had so much FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Because I don't have my daily internet access. Yeah, so I'd be very interested. Maybe we can do a part two in a few months or 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. Um, talking about travel. So you've traveled the world extensively while building this business. How has that global perspective influenced your approach to AI and community building?
I think when it comes to, well, I'll start on content, like just traveling around so much and meeting so many people and talking to people just in person in different countries is I just realized that when we're online and we're speaking to individuals like yourself and me, we have this tendency to believe that everyone's in tune with AI as much as we are. Everyone's is up to date and everyone's creating these amazing businesses. And you look on LinkedIn and you look on Twitter and everyone's building something and creating something and knows everything about AI. But through that travel and just speaking to shopkeepers and just people I met in the gym and individuals on the street, I learned that most people aren't even using AI yet. And if they are, they're using it as a search engine.
Yeah.
So I'd say that just kind of influenced like how we develop content, how we think about it. And that really builds into that community aspect as well, as we're not trying to sell something high ticket. We're not trying to sell something that's going to appeal to very few like entrepreneurs that want to make a ton of money. All we really want to do is build a community of like lots of people that are in the same space of going to 0 to 1. So I'd say that's how it's influenced it. It's just brought a kind of bigger perspective and got me out of this AI bubble that we're all in.
Awesome. Last question. Like who's a good fit for you guys? If you could, explain somebody listening to this podcast and they're interested in reaching out to you, like who's a good fit and how much does that cost? Ballpark, big picture.
Okay, let me see who's not a good fit. Who's not a good fit? Student, not a good fit. Startup, probably not a good fit. Um, I would say best possible fit would be any manager, any executive, HR leaders, like change management leaders, anyone within an organization, probably minimum 100 to 10,000 employees, and that is looking for direction and training to get their staff from 0 to 1, both in terms of the education that they're receiving and implementing AI education on a cultural level. So something we find when we do these trainings is that it's not so much about the access to the information, it's about holding someone's hand through the process. So part of what we do is go into an organization, set up workshops, set up training, set up some like regularly scheduled email blasts as well. And we really try to build this culture of like AI learning in the organization. So anyone in those aforementioned, like, sorry, the word's escaping me, demographics,
Yeah.
and someone that's looking to implement AI, not just on an educational level, but a cultural level.
Nice. So again, it's the AI report.ai. On the very right-hand side, you'll see the word consulting. That's probably, I would click on there. That's how you can reach out to Liam and the team. Again,
Ball,
when you go, is that correct?
ballpark, sorry, ballpark pricing as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think is what you asked for, right?
Yeah.
We start at 3.5K. So the 3.5K starts with the virtual training, and then it goes up in tiers from there, depending on how much of you want it to be custom, how much of it's going to be in person, if you want custom built kind of modules and training and stuff built out for you. But it starts at 3.5.
Okay, awesome. Gosh, I could go on forever. We're already past the half hour that I'd like to keep these interviews to. Any last tips for anybody that don't know yet, have started with AI or are not yet serious about AI?
Yeah, I'd say something I come back to quite a lot is people get overwhelmed, and it's easy to get overwhelmed with AI. And what I would do if you're just starting off, instead of trying to undertake a formal training or a formal accreditation or go to Harvard or MIT for an 8-week intensive course, I'd create a Twitter account, I'd create a LinkedIn account, make them entirely new, don't add any of your friends, start following everyone in the AI space that you find interesting. From there, you start to kind of build up this idea, who are the major players, who are the major companies, who are the major voices, what are they talking about? And you just kind of generally, through these two accounts you've just made on LinkedIn and Twitter, you just kind of tap into the tacit knowledge that's available in the space. And from there, you'll find the kind of part of AI that you find interesting. Maybe you kind of veer more towards practical tools. Maybe you veer more towards like the news and education space, like myself. But you'll just find from this, you'll kind of passively gain understanding and knowledge of how AI works and what's happening in the space. And then from there, you can kind of niche down and find what speaks to you the most. But I would say just start passively. It's going to be on your phone. You spend 20 minutes a day scrolling. That's all I'm asking you to do. Scrolling and reading for 20 minutes a day. And from there, it'll just kind of naturally work its way into your brain. You'll find what works for you.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Liam, for sharing your invaluable insights today. It's been incredibly enlightening to hear your journey, strategies for building such a powerful brand and community in the dynamic AI space. Hopefully, you'll be able to join us as a speaker at our online summit, which I'll be sharing more information about in upcoming podcasts. Liam, again, it was a pleasure having you on my podcast. Chris Raulf, AI SEO expert on the AI SEO Insider. Liam, I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you so much.
Chris, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man.